Welcome to 1987 Whitley Rose Queen Fete. Once again, the sun is shining and we're on the way for a very enjoyable day. The hard work put in by all over the long winter months has now come to fruition on June the 20th. The procession, led by Warrington Youth Band, winds its way through the leafy lanes of Whitley, en route to the Village Hall field. The retiring Queen, Louise Jones, enjoys the last few moments of her reign. Crown bearer Guy Rogers leads Queen-elect Susie Haley and her train bearers Jo Horton and Russell Orme. Mr. Jack Horton from Town Green is one of the first spectators to follow on behind after watching the parade. Along with others, he too makes his way to the Village Hall field for the crowning ceremony. Mrs. Laithwaite leads the first Whitley Cub Scout pack into the arena, followed by the first Whitley Scout troop. Louise and her retinue, Suzanne Ruane, Victoria Critchley, Anastasia Garside, and train bearers Stephen Alcock and David Morris make their way to the stage. The Queen-elect Susie Haley poses for photographs with Crown bearer Guy Rogers, train bearers Jo Horton and Russell Orme, Chief Attendant Angela Bloor, and attendants Christine Eaton and Katie Ince. Louise Jones greets the new Queen-elect and escorts her to the stage for the crowning ceremony. chairman, Mr. Littler, welcomed everybody and read out the timetable of events. He then took the unusual step of reassuring certain village members that the skillful demonstration by the motorcycle trials riders does not mean that motorcycle grass track racing would take place in the village. There is, after all, a distinct difference.
I was saying that Whitley is a vibrant community with many activities, and yet I read in the papers that across the length and breadth of Britain, village life is dying. Today, this is the epitome of a village occasion. Village space, we're going to crown a rose queen, the children are here, many community groups are here, there are plenty of spectators. This is something that we all wish for. And yet, many villages are dying, the churches are closing, the schools are closing. Why? It's because the people that live in those villages do not support the functions that go on within the village. People who come and live in Whitley have a duty to support the various clubs and communities that exist within the village.
After Mr. Arms had delivered his speech as president, he introduced Mrs. Arms, who performed the crowning ceremony. Mrs. Arms, in her crowning speech, spoke of how, when they first moved to Whitley, well over 20 years ago, the Rose Queen Day was virtually extinct. In fact, for a couple of years it wasn't held, but it was revived, and by skillful combinations of old traditions and new ideas, it developed and thrived, and as everyone can see, became one of the highlights of the village year. She thanked the Rose Queen Committee for all the hard work they put in throughout the year to make the day a success. And now the royal fanfare, a salute to the new Queen, Susie Haley. A joint presentation of sprays was given to Mrs. Arms by Carol Borg-Munro and Richard Huff. A very reluctant Nathaniel Hoyle receives a little persuasion, but still has stage fright. Fairy Janet Plumpton presents her spray to Mrs. Littler. And finally, one of the two little dicky birds, Nicholas Woolner, gives his spray to Mr. Littler. Miss Julie Dickinson has the honour of presenting the Rose Queen Committee gift to Susie Haley. queens and their retinues are showered with gifts from friends and relations. Little Red Riding Hood and the Odd Job Man, Brian Webster, lead the children's fancy dress parade. Two very serious punk rockers follow on behind, along with flower girl Carol Borg Monroe. Two little dicky birds sitting on a wall, alias Philip Critchley and Nicholas Woolner. The judges this year are Mr. and Mrs. P. Cushworth. There's a hole in my bucket, says clown Mark Queries. Fairy Queen Janet Plumpton has a little sparkle with her magic wand. Please let me join in, Mummy. Children of Whitley School centred their country dancing this year around the maypole, a tradition that seems to have died out somewhat in Whitley in recent years, but has now been revived by teachers Miss Brown and Mrs. Whittaker. Have you ever wondered how the tradition of maypole dancing started? The festival of Flora, the goddess of fruit and flowers, was celebrated by the Romans at the end of April and beginning of May, and all the traditional elements of our modern May Day festivities have their beginnings in these celebrations. Thus the flower-crowned May Queen personifies the goddess herself. The whole occasion was one of singing, dancing and general merriment. The houses were decorated with flowers, fruit and even whole trees. In addition, every village or town had its festive tree standing in a central position, often stripped of its leaves and branches. Gradually it became customary to leave the same tree in position all the year round and decorated afresh each May, and thus evolved the maypole as we know it today. The dances that are performed round it were originally danced in honour of the god of fertility. can dance all day, I don't care. Trust the tailor to want some of the limelight. He'll do anything to get on the film. This little boy would love to have a go. He's certainly leading his mother a merry dance.
Fantastic dancing, absolutely superb.
The Women's Institute Novelty Parade theme is children's stories. They have certainly created a wide range of characters, featuring Robin Hood and Maid Marian, Puss in Boots, Little Red Riding Hood and her grandma, from The Wizard of Oz we have the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, everybody's favourites Noddy and Big Ears, Goldilocks and the Three Bears with Rupert Bear, Dick Whittington and his cat walking with Captain Hook from Peter Pan, Cinderella and her fairy godmother, Prince Charming and the Two Ugly Sisters, Paddington Bear, followed by Alice in Wonderland with the Mad Hatter and White Rabbit. It is now decision time for Mr. and Mrs. Cushworth in awarding the decorated pram competition prizes. In second place, the racing car of John Buckley and Ian Campbell. And in first place, the Daredevil fighter pilot, the Red Baron, by Andrew Dutton and Andrew Green. The fancy dress results were as follows. In third place, two little dicky birds, Philip Critchley and Nicholas Woolner. In second place, the odd job man, Brian Webster. And in first place, the clown, Mark Queries, who is making sure he doesn't lose any of his ice cream. As the Queens retire for tea, the strong breeze gives Louise Jones a few problems with the train. When everyone hears tea is being served, there's a noticeable rush for the cream cakes. Even the band has to have a tea break.
I'm like a rubber ball, baby, that's all that I am to you.
Bouncy, 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 bouncy.
Just a rubber ball, cause you think you can be true to two.
Bouncy, 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 bouncy.
You bounce my heart around.
You don't even put her down.
And like a rubber ball, I come bouncing back to you. Rubber ball, I'm bouncing back to you. Till it's thin enough to tear, I'll just stretch my arms to reach you anywhere. And like a rubber ball, I come bouncing back to you.
Hip hooray, the sun has got his hat on. Hip, 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 hooray, the sun has got his hat on and he's coming out today.
Boy meets girl, girl meets sack, goodbye girl. The slippery pole is very popular. How come it's always the girl who falls off?
The sun has got his hat on. Hip, 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 hooray. The sun has got his hat on and he's coming out today. Now we'll all be happy. Hip, 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 hooray. The sun has got his hat on and he's coming out today. We've been tanning negroes out in Timbuktu. Now he's coming back to do the same to you. Oh, jumping.
The Campbell family's pony rides have a never-ending queue of eager riders of all ages.
Oh, they never saw the grass look greener, never saw the sky serener. What a lot of fun for everyone, sitting in the sun all day. Oh, the little boys excited, oh, the little girls delighted. What a lot of fun for everyone, sleeping in the sun all day. Hey, hey, hooray!
Cyril Littler thinks he's got his foot firmly in control of the situation for the children's tug of war.
And we're coming out today. Now we'll all be happy. Hip, 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 hooray! The sun has got his hat on and he's coming out today. So jump into your summer. Hip, 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 hooray! The sun has got his...
Was he there? What, was he round there? What was he round there? So where was he? What, behind me down here? Well, I can't see. If he comes again... Where was he then?
This unusual puppet show featured little pigs instead of the more commonly known Punch and Judy. Nevertheless, it proved to be very popular with both young and old. The children loved the thrill of the big bad wolf appearing unexpectedly, making them jump and squeal.
Let me in. And what does a little pig say? I said, what does a little pig say? Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin will I open the door and let you in. And I say, well, I'll hold.
The Delicate Art of Ice Cream Eating by a Whitley Cub Scout.
Are you going to help the children? I said, are you going to help me? Right then, I'll do it on my own. 1, 2, 3.
Baby's left hanging around whilst Mum issues her instructions.
Did you see anything, children? I said, did you see anything, children? And what was it? The big bad wolf. And what did he do? Did he blow the house down?
The annual Whitley School Art Competition attracts many interested visitors and boosts the children's ego when they can see their work on public display. While we look at a selection of the paintings, the final results were as follows. 4 to 7 years, Lucy Vaughan Edwards with Cinderella. 8 to 9 years, Debbie Vaughan Edwards with Princess and the Frog. And 10 to 11 years, Debbie Percival with Red Riding Hood.
On a bike breathing hill. Got my white shiny
speedway, a daredevil maximum man. I'm a speedway rider. I'm a speedway rider. Fast riding, broad sliding, wide sliding, dirt track, speedway rider. I'm a speedway rider. I'm a speedway rider. I'm a fast riding, broad sliding, wide sliding, dirt track, speedway rider.
The Winsford and District Motorcycle Club is a trials riding club which is normally not involved in displays. What they are showing this afternoon are the kind of obstacles they practice on before actually going out to ride in the woods, fields and quarries, which is where the sport normally takes place. Special trials riding machines are low geared and not very fast. They are silenced to normal road legal requirements and are adapted for riding under very arduous conditions. Machines vary in cost. A new machine can cost as much as £2,500, but a good second-hand one can be obtained for about £500. The whole idea behind the sport is that each rider has to negotiate each object without putting a foot down on the floor. Points are lost for stopping, putting a foot down, knocking a marker down, or going on the wrong side of a marker. 1 point is lost each time the rider puts his foot down. 5 points are lost if the machine stops when the rider puts his foot down or goes outside a marker. The riders are all graded. A rider first coming into the sport competes as a novice. He then can progress to the intermediate class and finally can ride in the experts class. We have here today 1 novice, 1 intermediate and 2 experts. Mrs. Pace and Miss Bell try to decide which stall to visit next. Mrs. Huff thinks she's got a winner. But this young man certainly hasn't. It's thirsty work being a committee man. But Mom, we only need another 50 pence each, says the Vaughan twins. somewhat unusual event was organised this year, a three-legged football match. Not exactly the sort of thing you see on the television. Referee Dave Bettles tries to keep both teams plumb in line with the rules, but boils up with despair and almost bursts a valve. Will he ever be able to cool down his system again? Instead of being a home or away game, this is probably better described as being a very friendly match. It's not very often you see footballers arm in arm, or leg in leg come to that. They even fall down together. The aim of the game is to score as many goals as possible, as you would expect. But what was not expected was that one team had to move the goal mouth to catch the ball, and the opposition enlisted the help of the referee to score a goal for them. Yet another sporting event with a difference was the relay race. To peel a potato, blow up a balloon and burst it, drink a can of beer, and then run to the finishing line can certainly give you indigestion. Come on, Robert, you can do better than that. Show them what you are made of, lad. What a picture, what a photograph. At the end of the day, the Rose Queen Committee posed for their group photograph to be taken to commemorate a successful 1987 Whitley Rose Queen Day. Let's hope that the sun is shining again in June, when we will do it all over again.